Outside with a strong tailwind, so we should get to our destination a little earlier. Please remain your seats on takeoff and landing, and make sure you buckle your seatbelt. Otherwise, enjoy your flight.
And we have live. So, want to thank everybody for joining us for our first live YouTube.
Say what?
I know this is going to be a little different for us.
A little bit.
No editing, completely unfiltered. Our other shit has been filtered. None of that anymore. You're welcome.
And you get to see us raw, in the flesh, pure.
I'm keeping my clothes on.
Pure naked man meat. And speaking of meat, we're using Google Meat.
And we have some potential man meat coming up here because we are taking a look at the 2022 draft and some players that we're going to be keeping an eye out for that we'd like Buffalo to take with their 3 first-round selections, and maybe some players that we're really hoping that they avoid.
Absolutely. Mine's gonna be probably lean towards more who I want necessarily to take. I'm gonna admit right now that my draft knowledge is not the greatest on the NHL side this year, especially.
Well, I was gonna prep you before, Zunk, to say bullshit your way and pretend that you actually know what the fuck you're talking about, and don't admit that at any point.
Oh shit!
But I completely forgot, and you hit it right away.
Home run! We could just edit it out. Oh.
We'll just edit that part out, yeah. Live TV, thank you, Zunk. You're ready.
I like to make things awkward.
But Zunk might be a raging idiot with the draft this year. I am prepped and ready to go. But what selections is Buffalo picking this year?
Well, they have the 9th overall selection, the 16th overall selection, and the 28th overall selection. So 3 first-round draft picks. One that I would consider a true premium first-round draft picks, and the other 2, especially in the NHL as you get further down the first round, becomes a lot more hit and miss. So I'm going to be focused on that 9 spot more, or who drops ultimately, but that 9 spot especially is going to be, I think, the key of this draft for Buffalo going forward. I know, shocking revelations.
I really like this year's draft for a couple reasons. One of them is because we have that late first round pick, and whenever you have a late first round pick, you're like, oh, this might as well be a second round pick. But then whenever you have an early second round pick, like Buffalo does this year, you look at it like, oh, it's like another first round pick. So our second round pick's almost more valuable than our first round pick.
Yeah, that's kind of weird how that works out, but.
But the other reason that I like this draft pick is while we still have a top 10 draft pick, we don't have a top 5.
Yay!
I was not expecting that at the start of the season.
No, one of my 2 favorite teams is not picking a top 5. It's a rarity.
But we didn't move anywhere. We didn't even have to drop to lose that. That's the spot we earned.
Hell yeah, it is.
So what are some players that maybe you're hoping fall to us, even though they're probably
there's this guy at the top of the draft named Shane Wright. I heard he might. No, I'm kidding, of course. There's a few guys here.
Now here's the thing with Shane Wright is there's some potential. There's some people out there talking that he might drop to 2. And I know you get that every year, and I think that's just people trying to make news out of non-news.
Yeah, I mean,
Shane Wright's going 1.
Yeah, and plus, you got those people who try and throw. You get the teams that throw out smoke screens and stuff. Even when they have the number 1 overall pick, for some reason they like to do that crap. Maybe for trade purposes, I don't really know, but One guy that I'm kind of hoping drops a bit myself, despite kind of, you know, Buffalo's affinity with Michigan players lately. I really like Frank Nazar going forward. I know he's at number 5 on the rankings that I'm looking at right now. I don't think he's going to be there, but if he could drop a little bit, I know he's a little bit. He's not the biggest guy. He's a center right wing. I think Buffalo really needs to hit the offensive side, especially the forwards, pretty hard in this draft early. But he's 5'10". He's 181 pounds right now. He's going to go to Michigan. You know, so I'm looking forward to. You know, it might be a couple years before he's in the NHL, but that's someone that I'm keeping my eye on.
At number 9?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Frank Nazar.
At 9, you're hoping he's going to fall.
I know the likelihood's slim.
No, I think the likelihood is high. I wouldn't have him for our first 2 picks.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen some drafts taking him to where he's taken in that 8, 9, 10 range. I think there's other players that I'd be looking at. Like, even if he were available, I don't think there's enough players to where I would take him at 9.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, while not a bad player, I think whoever he does end up with is going to get a solid player. I don't know that he has that top 10 potential.
Interesting. Okay.
I think he's a little more of a safe pick.
Well,
I don't think he has. I think his floor is a lot higher than some of the players that I would take, but I don't think his ceiling is as high.
And I would agree with that, and I think that's kind of what I'm looking for with Buffalo. Buffalo has a lot of top end prospects out going forward, so we need some more second, third, fourth line guys. I realize, like, oh man, number 9 pick, you're getting that guy like that, but I almost think you like this draft a lot. I think it's a very solid draft with not a lot of star potential outside of the top couple names. I'm also looking at someone. This has him a little bit, so maybe later in the draft he falls to the 16th position possibly, but someone like he's a big dude, Cutter, Gaithier. I know he's going to Boston College. That's unfortunate, but he's a big dude in that center left wing spot.
Here's the thing with Cutter.
His name's Cutter?
His name's Cutter. No. He's a bull. He puts his head down. He drives to the net. Well, why is that a bad thing? Because he doesn't look for other playmaking options. He gets the puck on his stick, and if he's not making something happen, the play's dead.
Gotcha. Well, if he's available,
so while that can be exciting at some points, I just don't think that's a player for me.
I would say, if he's at a 16, or especially if he somehow falls all the way down to the 28 spot, I would like that big body in front. I think you could coach him up. He's going to go to Boston College, and I know we hate Boston with a passion, but that is typically a good program. You can train him. You can develop him properly to get him a little bit more playmaking. You could see think about some of the big guys that just stick right in front of that who have had legendary, great careers. Like the Johan Franzens types is the one that came to my mind. He's not that big, I don't think, but I like having guys like that. I know Buffalo has a couple like that, including Tage Thompson, but
I haven't seen him on any draft boards falling below 12. I've seen some where he's gone in the top 5. I don't like him at 9. If we can get him at 16, I like him at 16. I don't like him as the top 10.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would want to see him at 16 more than that. That's what's good.
There's a couple defensemen that I don't think stand a shot to fall to us at 9. Obviously, I'm looking at a grand total of 0 left-hand shot defenseman draft.
Yeah, no, the Buffalo definitely doesn't need that.
And then there's just a big gap between 2 right-handed shot defensemen that are both going to go before 9 and being able to pick one up easily in the second round pick. There's a few that I'll talk about later. But Nemec and Jurasek, if either of them fall to 9, I really don't care what names are up there. I'd want one of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't. I know I said earlier that I want Buffalo to really focus on the forward side of the ice, but if one of those two happen to fall, yeah, I think you have to take him as a right-handed defenseman, right-handed shot defenseman. I don't think they will. I agree with you, but if they somehow do, I'm all for it. Nine's in that weird spot. You're starting to get to a point where, at least like in the NFL draft, the way I look at it, I'm kind of viewing the same line. I think it works kind of the same a bit. Once you get past the top 5, 6, 7 picks, start looking at best available player, even if it's not necessarily a need, unless you have like a smorgasbord of that position.
See, I think I'm a little bit the opposite. I think when you have a top 5, you take the best available, and then otherwise you're looking at positional needs. Now, obviously, if there's a gap, but if you have everybody within this the same container, you take your need, even though you may have somebody a few spots higher.
Fair. And I will admit, NFL, since there's much more positions, it is a different type of game. So my logic is definitely probably flawed.
But there are a couple players. Now, one of them you would think would have to fall between Savoy, Joachim Kimmel. Those are the two big names that I'm really hoping would fall to Buffalo. If we went back and we projected this year's draft a year ago at the 21 draft, Savoy is a top 3 pick. And his performance this year is leaving a few people scratching their heads. So he has potential to fall. I don't think he will, but he could fall to us at 9.
I mean, points-wise, I'm a little surprised by that because in the AHL, he had 90 points in 65 games. I mean,
he's probably the best pure goal scorer in this draft class.
Yeah, and he had 55 assists with that, so he still. The only thing I can think of is he's a bit of a smaller guy, and sometimes those smaller guys, despite seeing in the league what smaller guys can do, they tend to randomly drop because they're always looking for that. It's just it's how it kind of is. I don't know much about Kemmel. He's someone that's a little bit outside of where I was. He's in that same 5'9", 170 range. I do like that he played in a more professional league in Finland. That's always good.
Well, here's what I don't like about Kimmel for Buffalo is he's not going to be like a superstar, clear-cut number 1 center. And Buffalo has a ton of center depth where you're like, oh, they're all great number 2 centers.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a true number 1. Kimmel would further cloud that up. He's got a great two-way game. He doesn't need more help from his forward group. He's not going to carry a line by himself.
Right. Now, I will say on the ranking that I'm looking at, they do have him listed at right wing. Now that doesn't mean he won't play center, but it's something I just
well, no, that's the thing when you're drafting centers is bump them over to the wing. Like, it's different. You can't draft a winger and expect him to play center, but you can draft a center and expect him to play wing.
But yeah, so where do you think Buffalo? Who do you think Buffalo ends up taking at that spot?
Well,
I know it's tough to make that prediction because you never know what teams are going to do in front of them.
There's one other. Say the names that we mentioned are gone. I don't think Cutter's gone at that point. I don't think Nazar's gone at that point. Brad Lambert. I want him. I want him enough to where I don't know if I would risk him still being available at 16. But a lot of people have him going after 9.
Okay.
So it really depends on what names fall. If none of them fall and they go straight in order, I want to jump up and I want to take Brad Lambert early, and I want him at 9. Not that I want him at 9. I'd love to have him at 12, but we don't have 12. We have 9 and 16.
Not yet. But no, that's a good pick too.
Are you projecting trades?
You never know. You never know. I'll talk about trades later. Yeah, I mean that's a really solid selection. I've heard good things about him. I know, stats from last year in the same league that Kimmo played in Liga weren't exceptional. He only had 4 points in 25 games, but I've heard good things about him.
He was hurt.
That definitely plays a factor.
When he came back, his playing time was limited, and then he went through streaks with his points. He hasn't had that as a career. It was this season that the points came in the bunches and then not at all for a while. But that may be because he's recovering. So as long as you don't have health concerns with him, he was the one player. It was going to be who's going to go number 1 overall. Is it going to be Lambert or Wright? Lambert has dropped really far.
Yeah.
But I want him.
Fair enough.
So if none of the names fall, I want to take a flyer on Brad Lambert at 9.
No, I think that's a fair pick. The way I view, you gotta go after the guy that you really want. Obviously, we don't know what Buffalo's thinking is in the draft room, but even if it's a bit of a reach, a guy like that, especially a guy that was at one like you said, considered a potential top overall pick with Shane Wright, that could be the steal of the draft.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a worthy pick, and absolutely that's a very good choice.
So that really leaves a lot of questions up for 16. Obviously, I'm hoping that we get a different player other than Lambert at 9, and then Lambert's going to fall to us at 16. Fingers crossed, that's the hope. If we end up if Savoy drops to us at 9 and then Lambert drops to us at 16 again, I think we're rolling the dice quite a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But shit.
Yeah.
And both of those are possibilities, maybe a little outside possibilities, but
right.
We could end up with both of them, and I'd be happy.
Same here.
So outside the top 10, is there anybody that's catching your eye?
Not a whole lot. Unfortunately, he's a left-handed defenseman, so I can't. It's.
There's some good ones.
Yeah,
I just don't know where we'd use them.
Yeah.
You're not gonna bump Owen Power. You're not gonna bump Rasmus Dahlin. And I'm not drafting hoping a guy breaks into our third slot left-handed shot defenseman in the top 15. That's not what those picks are for.
No, I agree. So someone like a Kevin Korchinski, 65 points in 67 games as a defenseman. Owen Pickering is really good.
Looks good.
Nanachuk has definitely looked good. Where is Matchuk? Yeah, he's up. He's 8th on my list, so I don't think he's dropping. Someone like he's a small dude and he has a dumb name, but Jagger Fergus, another guy that.
I'm glad you brought him up. I don't know that I'd go at 16 for him. I think I'd hope that he drops to us at 28.
Yeah, I would say he's a reach at 16, but he's a guy I would definitely want to, at that spot, would take a flyer at. He's only 154 pounds at 5'10". He's a small
he needs 3 years to do nothing but put on weight.
Yeah, and the thing is,
he is a project.
Yeah, but when you get to the late first round, it's kind of what you expect, to some extent.
Now, there's, I don't know how familiar you are with him. I know you brought up his name, but there's a few players in that when I look at him, like you get excited about like the comparisons that I see with him. Like I think his absolute top ceiling is like a Danny Briere. It's a stretch for him to get there, but that type of player.
Yeah.
I think a little bit more realistic are two players that have both been very underrated that we have both liked. with Grabner and Bedker.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the pure speed of that. He's very quick. He's not going to beat defensemen wide, but if he's on the inside, he's going to get through them quick.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. Sometimes quickness is better than speed. I mean, if you get both, like Tyler McDavid, you just destroy the world. But
so I'm not ready for him at 16 yet.
Yeah.
Is there any other names that you're looking at?
There's not a lot here. I'm kind of in the boat that you are. Is I'm really hoping someone drops to that point, because otherwise, I mentioned it. I'll just kind of get into it now. I'm almost hoping that Buffalo makes a trade of some sort. If there's a guy they want to move up for in between that after the 9 spot, or even keeping the 9, which would be tough to move up ahead of that. I don't see a point in having the 3 picks and taking a prospect at each one. I would like to see him do something, even if that means a veteran player coming in, like a big name player, whoever that might be. I'm not going to sit here and name names. I've heard so many rumors out there that what's true and what's not, who freaking knows. But I would like to see Buffalo do something with these 3 picks that are not necessarily take a guy with every pick.
Just about every other year, I would agree with that. But there's one name in particular that I get to at the 28 that I really think could fall to us there and could be an absolute steal. And we might not do anything with him. Miroshnichenko, who is got cancer treatments over the year, so he's still battling back from that and not at 100%. This is a guy who is a top 5 talent. So because we have 3 picks, I'm like, yes, absolutely take a chance at him.
Yeah,
at 28.
Fair.
A massive upside, but it is a very risky pick. But because we have 3, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, especially at the 28th spot. I think that's because I for the first time in a long time, I feel, there's another Elias Pettersson coming into the league. Okay. Buffalo's farm system, their talent is becoming a lot better. There's genuine hope going forward with the Buffalo Sabres, and I'm under the impression, and if I'm proven wrong at the end of the year, then so be it. Or for next year, but I don't think the end of the year, the way they played, was a fluke. Maybe not. Maybe they're not as good as they played at times, because they beat a lot of good teams, a lot of playoff teams during that stretch. Buffalo did not have an easy end of the same. So if you're willing to take, with 3 first-round picks, you want to take a bit of a project like that, a guy like that as a risk. I'm all for it, especially if he ends up being a top 6 talent.
I think some other players that we can probably look at a little bit more realistically there for Buffalo. We have Howard coming out of the U.S. National Development Team, who led the team in points, but he's not the guy. So he can definitely play with your top end guys, but he's not going to be driving a line. Connor Geeky is a lot of man meat. He's got really soft hands. He's another player that somebody, before our 9 pick, might look at him and go, we want Connor Geeky, and I think that's a mistake to take him that early.
Yeah, I would agree.
He's somebody that could fall to us at 16. He's a weird player. He could go anywhere from 5 to 20.
Yeah, he was the other big name guy. I was struggling when I was talking about the other big band meat guy earlier. I was trying to think of the name of the other one that I had saw. It was Connor Geeky, and I could not think of the name while I was talking. So I was just like, I was hoping you bring him up because I was like, I could not remember this dude's name. And yeah, if you got him at 16, I'd be okay with that too.
There's Casper. He should be available at 16 also. He's not a flashy guy. He's not somebody to get overly excited about. His top end isn't as high as you would want, but his bottom end, he's almost guaranteed a middle six spot. Like but his top end's not going to be any higher than that. So whoever decides to pick him, they have a middle six forward to throw in.
That's not a bad thing, and for Buffalo,
it's definitely not.
And for Buffalo, I think that's their weakest point. I think, well, I would like to see what our top line is be our second line. I'd like to see a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit more star power on the top line myself. That's why we went back and forth about why I would want to sign someone like Giant Gaudreau and you wouldn't, and we both have very valid arguments in that. But yeah, I think going down the line, I'm not as sold on what our potential bottom six forwards are at the moment. I think there's a lot of potential there, but I'm okay with getting a guy that's like a guarantee like that.
Yeah. And then we already have somebody that kind of fits this role a little bit. Not so much the face-offs, but being a shutdown forward. So I don't know that we necessarily have a need for a guy like Owen Beck, but he's somebody who could be available around 16. Going to be a really good shutdown center. It's probably the best face-off guy coming into the draft class. It's probably the best face-off guy who's coming into the draft class in many years. So whoever gets him is going to have a solid player that we're going to be looking at if we don't draft him anywhere available. Like, why didn't we get him? It's because he doesn't fit a role that we need. We already have those roles kind of filled in.
Do we have someone that can win face-offs? Because Thompson struggled.
Face-offs, no. But I mean,
that would be where I'm kind of as.
I'm not going to draft top 16 only for face-offs.
Fair.
But what I'm talking is the shutdown center.
Yeah. Who's just for the record? Who do we have that does that?
I don't know. Who's our center group?
That's a good question.
You should know this one.
Obviously, we have Tage Thompson.
Well, it's not Tage Thompson.
Dylan Cousins?
Dylan Cousins.
Yeah. Dylan Cousins is weird to me because I don't think of him as that player until I think about him. I'm like, well, yeah, he is that fucking player. So yeah, I struggle a bit with the thought, with my thought process for some reason.
See, and that's like Owen Beck. Like, we took Dylan Cousins. What did we take him at 7?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
And I agreed with that pick. Really like having Dylan Cousins in, but picking him, he's not going to be a number 1 center, or at least like your point-getting dominant number 1 center.
Right. Yeah.
No. If he has somebody to go with him, like if he ends up being like a Taves and we have another Pat Kane to go with him, that's a different story. But we don't have that.
No. But I mean, Buffalo. He could be our third line guy with the right type of drafting and free agency this year, and that's a really good Jordan Stahl-esque third line center.
Yeah. If we got enough depth where Dylan Cousins fits in comfortably at the third line center, then we're going to be continuing to climb the standings.
Oh yeah, I think that's, depending on what they do, I think that's possible because again, we have one line set. Whether that's our first or second line is up for debate, but I can't imagine splitting up Tage, Tuck, and Skinner. Them three played so well together, despite being really the only good, consistent line they had all year. I mean, Skinner had a bounce-back year from just an absolute disaster. Tuck looked really good when he played. Tage Thompson was a monster out there. Yes, he got injury issues prior to that, but he played the whole season. So, yeah. So we need, again, if you get a Johnny Gaudreau type, well, there you go. Our centers are set.
Well, Gaudreau's a winger.
Yeah. Yeah, is he? Why was I thinking he was a center?
Left wing. Monahan's the center.
Oh, what the fuck? My bad. For some reason, I thought Gaudreau was the center this entire freaking time. I just completely blanked on that. That kind of changes my thinkings a bit, but I still would want to get him.
Now, with the last pick, the 28th pick, seeing that we don't go the trade route that you mentioned, and Miroshnichenko goes before 28 because there's another team out there who goes, well, no shit, we're taking him. I might actually look at a left-handed shot defenseman if he falls this far. I don't think Bichelle will fall anywhere near that. I'd actually kind of expect him to go around our 16 pick.
It's interesting to name him because on my prospect ranking here, he's at the exact 28 spot.
Is he?
Yes. So that would be a very interesting dynamic. That wouldn't be a bad spot for him at all.
I mean, that's 6'5", 225 pounds of pure man meat. And that's almost all he does. He moves the puck pretty well. He's got decent speed for his size. But he's just gonna crush people.
Yeah.
But again, at 28, I'm okay drafting somebody who we're like looking at as a third pairing. But we already have that with a couple of guys. With Samuelson, we have Ryan Johnson. Both of them are coming up in trade talks. We have so many left-handed shot defensemen that are looking for that last spot that I'm just going to have a hard time, even at 28, taking a guy like that who's a top 15 any other year. But this year is deep. I don't think outside of Shane Wright, I don't think the elite guys are there. But there's not a weak spot in the first round.
Yeah, no, it is a very good depth class, and it's not high end on the elite talent outside Wright, but of course Montreal gets him.
Well,
rigged.
Seeing that you're looking at a prospect ranking, where do they have Yurov at? Do we stand a chance at getting Yurov at 28?
He's at 23 on here.
So we stand a chance at him. Okay. Because that's another really interesting guy. He just played 40, 50 games with a grand total of 0 points.
I see that.
But he also played playoff games for a team who made it to the finals while having 0 points in a professional league, and he's 18 years old. So he contributes in other ways and not just points, but his upside is a Pavel Bure comparison. With his speed and his shot. Like, if he can put that together, that's your top end that you're looking at. But again, having 0 points all year, I think that's a long shot. But at 28, again, it's our third pick in the first round. It's a late one. I'm willing to take that shot.
Yeah. No, understandable. And again, if the KHL is the league he was in, I was debating whether to say or not for obvious reasons, but I mean, that's often considered the second best professional league out there in the world right now, so that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, for the Lunchroom Syndicate, what we're hoping for is, do we agree that we're like, come on, let's get Savoy, Lambert, and Miroshnichenko? Is that our dream draft?
That would be a dream draft, a realistic dream draft.
And then probably a little bit more of a realistic, we're looking at Cutter Gauthier, maybe Howard at 16. And at 28, man, there's just so many names out there. I'm gonna stick with Miroshnichenko, because I just have a good feeling there. Um, Cutter Gouthier, Howard, and Miroshnichenko as our option B here from the Lunchroom Syndicate for who the Buffalo Sabres are going to end up with. Either way, we have some good talent coming in that are joined well, but obviously if we get that first A, we have more skill than what we're going to know what to do with, which would be nice in Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Is there any names in the second round or later that you're looking at?
I don't have a lot of big names here. We really haven't mentioned the other Jack Hughes.
Thank you for bringing him up. He's one of two players that I have as my late picks. The second, Jack Hughes. He probably has, in terms of hands and skill set, he might be top of the class, but he's so damn slow.
That's problematic. But that's not a bad pick in the second round. That's really the only guy that has really, that isn't been talked about. That's kind of stuck out in my mind. I don't know if that's just because his name is Jack Hughes, but he is. I've heard some about him. He is a good player, but like you said, he's not the fastest guy out there.
Yeah, he's a potential third round. He's probably more realistically that middle second round. What do we have in the second round? Do we have two picks, or just the one?
I think two. I could tell you in approximately 30 seconds.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yes, we have one. We have one.
Okay.
And that is our own pick.
So I don't know if I take him there. Third round if he's available. Yes, please. But I'm not taking him that early into the second round. There's another guy that, this is somebody who could drop off and go completely undrafted, while his talent level is a first round talent.
Who's that?
You know why he might not go drafted?
No.
His work ethic sucks ass.
Who's that?
David Goyatt. If you go in and he has some good interviews with teams, and they like him and they think they can get him working all the time, he's gonna be an absolute steal of a player. But when your biggest criticism is your work ethic, that's nasty.
That's not a good one.
No.
That's definitely not something that you like to see.
And he could perhaps be getting this feedback going, well, son of a bitch, and that being a wake-up call for him, too. I mean, that's just flat insulting.
Yeah, that's the one criticism that you just don't want to have on your record. You just, that's rough.
Yeah. So he's the other forward, and then obviously there's a handful of right-handed shot defensemen between the second, third, maybe even fourth or fifth round picks with one of them. Tristan Lunier, Seamus Cassie, and Matt Haviland are three players that I'd be looking at with our first pick in the second round. Lunier, he's a real smart defenseman, but where he is quick in mind, he is slow in foot. Seamus Cassie, very skilled defenseman. He's really good skating. He gets criticism for not being dynamic enough with the puck, which is a weird combination when you can skate really well and you have good puck moving skills, but then you're like, but he can't do anything with it. It's a little weird.
That's a bit strange. But I feel like that's coachable.
Yeah.
It sounds like he has the uncoachable parts down.
And then Matt Havlid, he's going to have the best skill set out of these three, but he's also a tiny man.
Yeah, and when you're tiny on defense, you're going to be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah,
on the back end.
So those are three players that I'd look at in the second round, and then for our late round steal of a pick, my gem in the making that I'm hoping for is none other than Robin Sparkles, y'all.
What?
Jack Sparkles.
Oh, I was really hoping that his name was Robin Sparkles. I was like, yes. Oh, no, he's number 1 overall.
Okay. So if you could guess physical attributes for Jack Sparkles, what would you guess?
He's not a very big guy.
No, he is like 6'8", 6'9".
Oh, Jesus Christ. Are you going to make fun of my last name? No, man. Nope, I'm good.
He is that big with the name of Jack Sparkles.
Poor guy.
He skates better than you would expect from a guy that size. Skating's not an issue with him. Obviously, pure man meat, but he is also pure meathead.
Ah. Fair.
But you know he's going to be a fan favorite if he gets some playing time anywhere. He's going to be a fan favorite because he's going to be out there destroying people with the name Robin Sparkles. And if he joins Buffalo and they continue that players get to choose their own song, goal song, when he scores a goal and you hear "Take Me to the Mall,"
let's go to the mall today. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that is the 2022 Buffalo Sabres draft preview. Got anything else to add?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, let us know who you're hoping for in the draft, what you think of our predictions, and the players that we're hoping to grab, and whether or not you agree with us. And then we'll tell you why you are wrong, because this is completely factual, not at all subjective. Lunchroom Syndicate. Until next time, deuces.